The man had never planned to be a hero. If anything, he leaned more toward professional cynicism, an acute talent for mechanical failure analysis, and a stubborn belief that machines would always respond better to logic than to pleading. The human sector of the galaxy was full of derelict satellites, abandoned cargo pods, and malfunctioning freighters, but nothing had prepared him for the sight that drifted into his viewport that evening. A ship unlike anything charted in known space, half buried in the asteroid belt, glowing faintly like a wounded star. Its shape suggested symmetry and elegance, yet its hull was dented, scratched, and bizarrely decorated with patterns that might have been accidental or ceremonial. It was impossible to tell. He grunted, rubbing the stubble along his jaw. Great, another walking tax on repair time. He maneuvered his shuttle closer, careful not to disturb the thin atmosphere of dust and rock. The ship's energy signature was erratic, bouncing between faint pulses and sudden surges like it was sniffing out life or begging for help. He squinted at the readings. Whoever had built this vessel and whatever they had been carrying clearly didn't account for asteroid collisions or, worse, the human penchant for curiosity. As he docked, the outer airlock hissed, and a panel on the alien ship slid open with a creak that sounded almost like a sigh. Out stepped two figures, identical except for subtle differences in their posture. The twin alien brothers. They moved with precision, hips swaying in a rhythm that suggested elegance but also implied a lack of patience for human awkwardness. The man immediately noticed the curve of their long ears, peeking out from a mass of hair that shimmered faintly in the low light of the belt. They were dressed in simple, unadorned tunics, but the fabric itself seemed alive, shifting colors according to the angles of the drifting asteroid light. One brother tilted his head. "You, repairer." His voice was musical, precise, and yet wholly lacking the stress humans used to disguise social confusion. The man raised an eyebrow. "I can try. Depends on what repair means in your language." He gestured vaguely at the vessel, which twitched as if anticipating judgment. The second brother moved closer, staring at him like an algorithm analyzing a variable it wasn't supposed to understand. "You understand, machine." There was a flicker of impatience, like the machine's confusion had extended to them. "I talk to machines," the man said, shrugging. "Usually, they pretend they understand me." He tapped a panel that lit up under his touch. Sparks arced and fizzled. Some respond better when they're threatened, others bribed. He waved a hand, mostly threatened. The twins exchanged a glance. It was brief, electric, filled with something unspoken. The man had learned early in life not to read alien expressions too closely. They could be meaningless, or they could signal imminent apocalypse. "Right," he said. "Show me your problem." They led him inside the ship, the corridors narrower than he expected, walls that shimmered faintly, and panels that pulsed with an internal light that responded to his presence. The ship was alive, or pretending to be. Each step he took made the lights flicker, and he muttered jokes under his breath. "You guys don't do subtlety, huh? This place is like a disco that thinks it's a hospital." The twins did not laugh, though he thought he detected a twitch in one corner of the mouth. Then he saw her. She stood near the center of the control room, quiet, hands folded, long ears twitching as if they were constantly scanning the environment. She looked human, almost, if one ignored the subtle gleam of her eyes and the way her ears moved like antennae catching invisible signals. She raised one eyebrow and tilted her head slightly, amused, though her expression was carefully composed. The man blinked. "You don't talk much, huh?" "I observe," she said. Her voice was calm, soft, and carried an undercurrent of humor that the twins lacked entirely. "You are chaotic." The man laughed. "You have no idea. Fixing machines is mostly chaos disguised as order." He leaned against a console and flicked a switch. Sparks erupted again, tiny, harmless. "See, chaos loves me." She tilted her head, the tips of her ears twitching. "It seems entertaining." There was a pause, and reckless. "Reckless is my middle name," he said. Actually, it's probably Larry or something, but you get the idea. He gestured vaguely. Look, I repair things. Things that beep, things that explode, things that make your head spin. The twins exchanged another glance. The brother with the slightly higher posture said, "You repair, you fix, you understand human." "I understand machines," the man said. "Humans not so much. They're complicated, even I get confused sometimes." The room hummed as he began inspecting the ship, touching panels, probing wires, and muttering explanations that only he understood. The aliens watched him like scientists observing a rare specimen, occasionally interjecting with questions that sounded technical, but were almost certainly tests of logic or patience. The woman occasionally adjusted her stance, the long ears twitching as if reacting to frequencies only she could detect. "You have a sense of humor," she observed after a while. "Professional hazard," he said. "If you don't laugh while repairing a ship that might explode, you cry, and crying doesn't fix circuits." He grinned. "Trust me, I've tried." Hours passed, though time aboard the ship seemed elastic. Panels lit and dimmed with his touch. Screens flickered and holographic interfaces danced like nervous butterflies. He worked, cursed, joked, and occasionally mocked his own intelligence while explaining to the twins why this specific wire clearly didn't care about the laws of thermodynamics. The woman leaned closer at one point, hands clasped, silent but clearly curious. "You approach problems strangely." "I approach everything strangely," he admitted. "You should see me cook. Or drive a hovercar through asteroid traffic. Strangeness is my gift." He yawned, stretching. "Mostly it's a curse, but hey, it keeps life interesting." At one point, a spark flew from the main console, catching the tip of his sleeve on fire. He swore loudly, smacked it out, and muttered, "Okay, maybe I overestimated my charm with electronics." The woman let out a soft laugh, more musical than human laughter, delicate, unexpected. He looked at her. "You laugh at bad repairs." "It is amusing," she said. Her ears flicked like she couldn't decide whether to be polite or honest. "You, human, unpredictable." By the time the final panel was restored, the ship gave a satisfied hum, settling into an even glow, like a beast stretching after a long injury. The twins' faces, always inscrutable, shifted imperceptibly, and for the first time the man felt the weight of alien gratitude pressing down on him. "You, repair complete," one twin said. "You save." Just another Tuesday," he said. "Don't mention it." He wiped grease from his hands, feeling absurdly heroic for doing nothing but following logic and random luck. The woman tilted her head, long ears twitching again. "You, human, strange. And entertaining. Perhaps we invite you." He blinked. "Invite me where?" The twins exchanged a glance, solemn, awkward, and entirely alien. "Live with us," they said in unison, like a phrase rehearsed 1,000 times in their minds but never spoken to someone like him. He laughed. That's wait, you're serious." They nodded. "Serious, honor, gift, bond." The man shook his head, feeling a rush of absurdity so strong it almost knocked the wind out of him. "Yeah, sure. I repair your ship and now I'm supposed to move in. Right, totally normal Tuesday for me." The woman tilted her head, silent, watching him carefully. There was humor in her eyes, a kind of cautious approval, as if she could already tell that living with a human might be the strangest experiment of their lives. "Perhaps we will see," she said softly. Her ears flicked once sharply, betraying the tiniest spark of curiosity and anticipation. The man, blinking at this improbable turn of events, muttered under his breath, "Well, I guess chaos just got roommates." He had no idea that this simple act of repair, fueled by stubborn logic, humor, and more than a lee, the human blinked twice, staring at the twin alien brothers as they waited for his response like two statues carved from patience itself. He scratched the back of his neck, a nervous gesture he didn't realize he developed in reaction to incomprehensible offers of interstellar hospitality. "Live with you," he repeated slowly. Like, permanently. Or more like a long vacation." The taller twin tilted his head, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly calm. Live, not vacation, we honor you, share life, required by protocol. The man snorted, crossing his arms. Protocol. Oh sure, I forgot to read the alien etiquette manual. My bad. Number 42. Invite humans to live with you after they touch the circuits. He shook his head, trying to wrap his human brain around what they were proposing. Look, I fix things for a living. I don't do alien cohabitation. I can barely keep my plants alive. The woman, standing slightly apart, raised one delicate eyebrow. Her ears twitched, catching vibrations in the room almost imperceptible to human senses. You underestimate self. Perhaps you adapt. He gave her a half-smile. You've got to admit, this is a weird start to roommate negotiations. I mean, I barely know you guys, and I'm already signing some cosmic lease. He waved a hand as if the gesture could nullify the entire conversation. The twins ignored the sarcasm. They handed him a device, sleek, oval, glowing faintly, something that looked part tablet, part organic structure. You read, learn customs, begin transition. He turned it over in his hands. Oh, fantastic homework. Just what I needed, and I thought electronics were complicated. He tapped the surface, and the device shimmered, projecting a holographic display that rotated in the air. Alien text scrolled in impossible geometries, and a small avatar of the woman appeared, smiling faintly. Welcome, human. Lesson 1, Etiquette. Lesson 2, Survival. Lesson 3, Humor, her avatar intoned. The man chuckled despite himself. Lesson 3, that's your first real lesson, already hitting my strengths, love it. Over the next hours, he explored the ship, which turned out to be less a vehicle and more a living organism. Gravity shifted in localized bubbles, corridors subtly changed direction when unobserved, and food synthesizers created meals that altered flavor depending on emotional state. He held a plate that smelled faintly of roasted mushrooms, tasted like something entirely sweet, and left an aftertaste of citrus. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Okay, I don't even know what I'm eating, but apparently it's polite to chew slowly. The woman appeared beside him, silent, ears flicking. You adapt quickly, unexpected. He swallowed awkwardly. Well, I've always been good under pressure, mostly pressure caused by confusion, but it counts. He glanced at the glowing floor tiles, which pulsed slightly with his weight, and apparently under sentient flooring. She gave him a look almost human, almost mischievous. Floor judge behavior. Yeah, he said. And it's probably laughing at me right now. I can feel it. He dropped onto a low seat, careful not to disturb the furniture that seemed to have its own sense of balance. So, what's day-to-day life like here? Assuming I survive the floors and flavor-shifting dinners. The taller twin appeared, adjusting something on a console that gleamed like liquid metal. Routine structured, tasks assigned. Observe, learn, participate, adapt. Humor encouraged. Encouraged, that's vague. He leaned forward. You mean if I crack a joke, does the ship explode or reward me? The twins' lips twitched in what might have been the closest thing to a human smile. Reward sometimes, explode rarely. He laughed, shaking his head. Fantastic. So basically my life just became a cosmic game show with extremely high stakes. Good to know. As days passed, he discovered the humor in almost everything. Gravity-shifting hallways became obstacle courses. Holographic walls occasionally played pranks by showing scenes from his previous life. His tiny apartment, his messy kitchen, his cat staring judgmentally from the sofa. He swore at the cat hologram. Really? Now even my cat is judging me across galaxies. The alien woman appeared beside him again, arms folded, long ears twitching. You react human strongly. Amusing. Yeah, well, you react strongly too if your cat could warp in 3D and insult you at lunch, he muttered. Then he grinned. Though I guess I like it, makes things interesting. She tilted her head. Interesting, motivates, learn, understand. He shrugged. I'm mostly motivated by curiosity and caffeine, but we can call it motivation. Over time, he began to notice subtleties. The ship responded to mood and speech, but he also realized that the twins were subtly teaching him the alien way of thinking, not just about machines, but about existence, emotion, and the concept of humor itself. Sometimes jokes landed perfectly. Other times, they caused the holograms to misbehave spectacularly, creating bizarre situations. At one point, the floor tiles rose beneath him as he tried to dodge a prank, and he ended up clinging to a console like a very confused spider. The woman simply observed, ears twitching, a smile in her eyes. He grunted, falling back onto a floating seat. Okay, okay, I surrender. You win this round, sentient flooring. Her laugh was soft, melodious, teasing him in a way he didn't quite understand but appreciated. Human persistence, amusing. As he continued to adapt, he realized that humor had become a bridge. Each joke he made, every sarcastic remark or ridiculous observation, chipped away at the tension of living among beings he barely understood. The twins' precision, the ship's intelligence, and the woman's quiet amusement created a rhythm that was alien and intoxicating. He found himself sharing small human truths without realizing it, stories about failed repairs, odd humans he had met, bad decisions that somehow didn't end in catastrophe. The woman listened, sometimes with subtle nods, sometimes with that faint twitch of her ears, absorbing every word. Occasionally, she would ask questions that seemed mundane but revealed complex ideas about human logic, humor, and resilience. One evening, after the ship had settled into a pattern of low light and soft hums, he sat near a window watching an asteroid drift lazily past. The woman joined him, sitting without asking, ears flicking like radar. "You human different," she said softly. "Chaos, laughter, resilience. Different me." He laughed, shaking his head. "I'm just a guy who fixes things and somehow got invited to live with aliens who think floors can laugh at me." He gestured at the pulsing tiles. "Seriously, these things have no respect for personal space." She tilted her head, long ears brushing against her shoulders. "Personal space, human concept, amusing." He grinned, "Glad you approve. So what's next? Am I learning etiquette, surviving cuisine experiments, or just avoiding death by hologram cat?" "You all," she said simply. Her eyes sparkled faintly, almost mischievous. "And perhaps more." He stared at her, realizing she meant something more than meals, floors, or lessons. Something subtle, unspoken. And he had a feeling that whatever came next would involve not just survival, but understanding. Understanding them, the ship, and perhaps her. He exhaled, a laugh escaping despite himself. "Well, if I'm going to be the first human roommate in recorded alien history, I might as well enjoy the chaos." The woman tilted her head again, long ears flicking softly. "Enjoy, perhaps inevitable." He chuckled, leaning back. "I think I can manage that as long as the floors don't hold grudges." The ship hummed, the lights pulsed, and somewhere in the distance, the twins moved with precise, silent grace, leaving him with the strange, exhilarating certainty that his life had shifted into something entirely new, irreversibly unpredictable and undeniably entertaining. The human stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at a nebula that glowed in impossible colors, swirling as if the universe itself had decided to show off. The ship hummed beneath his feet, alive, pulsing with gentle light in tune with the alien's rhythms. The twin brothers moved silently behind him, monitoring instruments, adjusting controls, occasionally glancing at him as if weighing his worth with quiet calculation. The alien woman appeared beside him, her long ears flicking lightly as though catching frequencies the human could not hear. Yet he felt their presence anyway, a subtle reminder that nothing here was ordinary. "So this is it," he said, breaking the silence. "Ship's fixed. I survived sentient floors, flavor-shifting dinners, and holographic judgmental cats, and now we leave the human sector for wherever it is you two are actually from." The taller twin inclined his head. "We leave home sector, begin journey, observation, expansion. You human invited. Invited, yes, he said, giving a sarcastic salute. It still feels weird, you know. Humans have this thing where we invite people over for dinner, not for permanent interstellar cohabitation. The woman smiled faintly. Humans humorous often adapt quickly, survive unexpected. Her ears twitched in amusement. You human changed, yes. He looked at her and for the first time realized she was right. He had changed. Not in the way that a simple repair could claim credit for, but in the way living among beings so alien, so precise, and yet so strange had reshaped him. He thought about the lessons he hadn't realized he was learning: patience in silence, understanding in observation, humor as a bridge between worlds. He'd laughed more than he ever thought possible, argued more than politely, and had been challenged in ways that made him reconsider the limits of his own existence. I guess I have changed, he admitted. I'm more patient. I understand more than I thought I would. I even like this chaos in a weird, terrifying, exhilarating way. The woman's ears flicked once, sharply, then relaxed. Chaos, laughter, resilience, human, adapt, thrive. She paused, then added softly, and connection, unexpected bond. He chuckled. Connection, huh? That's a fancy way of saying I can't get away with just being sarcastic anymore. He shook his head. Fine, I'll admit it, I like this, all of it, even you. He pointed at her, grinning. And your ears, they're expressive, terrifyingly perceptive, but I like that. She tilted her head, faint amusement playing in her expression. You, human, unpredictable, amusing, necessary. The twin brothers began their final pre-flight checks, their movements fluid and precise. They were a study in control, a counterpoint to the human's chaos, and he realized that together they had formed a balance. He'd provided improvisation, intuition, humor, and the messy unpredictability that even their advanced calculations couldn't model. They had offered structure, precision, and guidance in a world that operated on alien logic, and somewhere between the two extremes, life had become possible, even enjoyable. Ready for launch? The taller twin asked, voice calm but expectant. The human grinned, slipping his hands into his pockets, a gesture of human nervousness. As ready as I'll ever be. I've survived worse, I think. The ship thrummed in response, lights pulsing in a slow, approving rhythm. The engines came online, a symphony of hums, vibrations, and gentle roars that resonated through the hull. The floor beneath him shifted slightly, nudging him toward the launch console. He stepped forward with a laugh. All right, let's see if I survive hyperspace without losing my lunch or my mind. The woman joined him, sliding into the console beside him. Her fingers brushed controls with an elegance he could barely understand, long ears twitching slightly as she checked systems. You, human, navigate. She asked, a hint of teasing in her voice. He smirked. Navigate? I've been lost in the asteroid belt, chased by malfunctioning freighters, and argued with a coffee machine that refused to work. I think I can handle a little hyperspace. She tilted her head, letting the corners of her mouth curve slightly. Confidence amusing. The human chuckled, gripping the controls as the ship shuddered, and then lifted from its stationary orbit, drifting into the colored haze of the nebula. Stars stretched and blurred as hyperspace engaged, and he felt the ship respond, alive under his hands. He glanced at the woman, then at the twins behind him. They were all watching, silent, careful, but the atmosphere was lightened by shared anticipation. Okay, he said, leaning back slightly, so what happens now? Do we fly aimlessly forever, discover new worlds, collect alien snacks, and argue about who's in charge? He grinned. I can handle that. The woman laughed softly, the sound melodic and comforting. Perhaps all, journey, exploration, humor, learn. The human exhaled, feeling the weight of the universe shift in a way that was less frightening than it had been at first. He had entered this alien life by accident, repairing a ship that shouldn't have needed fixing in the first place. He had been tested, teased, challenged, and entertained, and in return, he had found a place in a world that was both utterly alien and surprisingly welcoming. He glanced around, catching the subtle shifts in the twins' expressions and the flicker of amusement in the woman's eyes. "You know," he said, "I came here thinking I'd just fix a machine and go home. Turns out I might actually be home." Her ears flicked softly, almost a laugh. "Home human perhaps, yes, home." The ship surged through hyperspace, a living vessel of lights, hums, and whispers, carrying them beyond known space. The human sat back, finally allowing himself to absorb it all. The journey, the companions, the endless potential of the stars before him. He realized that he had not only survived alien life, he had embraced it, changed with it, and in doing so, had discovered a connection deeper than he ever imagined. "Let's see where chaos takes us next," he said, grinning at the woman. She nodded, ears flicking, her smile gentle but confident, as though she had known all along that he belonged here. The twins activated the navigation array, engines humming in harmony, and the ship responded like a living organism, ready to explore, to learn, and to laugh along with its unpredictable human guest. And in that moment, suspended in the glittering void, the man understood that repair had been only the beginning, not of machines, but of himself. He laughed softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, I think I can get used to this." And with the stars stretching into infinity before them, the human, the twins, and the alien woman moved together into a future that was unpredictable, humorous, dangerous, and utterly extraordinary. A life remade among the cosmos, where chaos and structure, humor and seriousness, human and alien, intertwined perfectly, leaving nothing unfinished and everything possible.